Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lawrence County Animal Hour. I'm Leanne Pettis with Friends of Lawrence County Animals, and I have with me Kayla Corbett, who's Vice President of FOLCA.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you back this week.
Glad to be here.
And welcome to a special segment of the Lawrence County Animal Hour. And I'm going to work really hard to say this. We're calling it the County Commissioner Candidate Corner. How's that? 4 C's. And our first guest is Commissioner Wayne Yocom from District 1. He has been commissioner now for several terms and has decided to run again. And welcome, Wayne. We're so glad to have you on.
Welcome to y'all, Leanne.
Yeah.
How are y'all?
Doing good.
Yeah, we're doing great. And we also have with us Jimbo.
Yeah.
That we'll be talking a little bit more about later.
Yes.
But Jimbo has I don't know if Jimbo has been on the program before.
I'm
I
not
think he
sure.
has. But we're so glad to have Jimbo back on as well.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Wayne?
He's the star.
He is the star, absolutely.
He knows it too. He's been greeting everybody.
So, Wayne, thanks so much. I just feel like, we all felt like that it was a good time. This is the election year, and while not all things are political, in many cases, when it comes to taking care of our animals, politics is involved, isn't it? Yeah. And so before we get kind of started about your feelings about animal welfare, I want to ask you, did you have pets growing up?
Oh, yeah. I've been around pets all my life. I got a couple of Australian Shepherd dogs now that, of course, they're outside dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, yeah, I've been around animals all my life.
And did you have dogs and cats, or mostly dogs?
Mostly
both?
dogs. Yeah, dogs.
Mostly dogs.
Yeah, because back in, dogs ran out and seem like dogs and cats gets along better now than
They do
used to.
for some reason. I know.
That's great.
You're exactly right. A long time ago, you kind of had a lot of people had one or the other, and now everybody's cohabitating.
Yeah.
It's just a different world now. So you had mostly dogs growing up.
Yes.
And what kind were they? I know you said you have Australian Shepherds
Well,
now.
I've had Australian Shepherds. I've had German Shepherds. I've had Beetles, hunting dogs.
Have you ever had just good old mutts as well? I'm sure you've
Well,
had a few of those too.
Where I live at, there's a lot of them come up the holler.
Yes, they are. And you just adopt them and so on and so forth. So tell us a little bit about District 1 and where that actually is within Lawrence County.
Well, District 1 mainly, the general rule of thumb is kind of like half of Loretta and all of St. Joe, and it's kind of the west side of the railroad track.
Okay.
As you go through Loretta till you get down to the St. Joe city limits, and then it covers both sides of 43 and goes all the way over to Rascal Town.
Okay.
And then all the way back to the Alabama line.
Oh, it goes all the way down to the Alabama
Yes,
line.
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. And of course, because you were commissioner, you kind of went through the whole process of obtaining the first countywide shelter ever. And, of course, we all talked about how that affects public safety, quality of life issues. There were a lot of things involved in that. Why do you think animal services matter at the commission level or the county level?
Well, at the time, when y'all first came, I believe it was TR was there as a county executive. And, we wasn't participating, much as far as making a contribution to animals for Lawrence County.
Mm-hmm.
And so, y'all came on the scene and kind of pitched us a proposal and some thoughts. And we sat down and kind of talked about what maybe we could do, that we felt like that we should make some kind of contribution towards it, And so anyway, we come up with this partnership between Lawrenceburg and the county and come up with, I feel like, a pretty good contribution, to actually, to at least get it started.
Absolutely. Yes. And we also did our research too.
Yeah.
Did you find that was helpful, kind of looking to see what other counties that were doing and,
Oh, yes.
based on the size
Yes.
and things of that nature? But it was a process, wasn't it?
No, it was a process.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yes. Yes. And so when you think about roads and schools, emergency services and budgets, where do animal services fit in that picture? Do you feel like that's a necessary now part of the way of life in Lawrence County?
Well, that was my whole goal at the time that y'all came. I was trying to find a way to fit a permanent contribution into our budget because, we definitely got to know the impact, what it's going to do on our budget. We really need to know kind of, a direction that you're going, kind of an end game and all that. And so I really feel, like now since, it's done implemented into the budget, I just think that right there's something that'll stay. I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. And of course, for those of you who are listening in, the shelter, and did I mention that Ginger normally would be here today, but she is under the weather,
Right.
so we miss her. But the shelter services now resides under the Sheriff's Department.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, do you see animal welfare in your contribution? Do you see it as a part of public safety, or as quality of life, or all of the above?
Well, I just think it probably touches all of it. I mean, it's definitely, now one of the things that I really do like about this, at least somebody now has kind of got a number they can call, if they do have an issue or a problem, and somebody is kind of assigned to that,
Yes.
So,
we have an animal. Lawrence County now has
yes,
a animal control officer.
Yes. So, before y'all came, it was just kind of relayed to the sheriff's department, and they just, whether they fulfilled it or moved on it, they were so backed up.
Right.
So I'm just really glad that we got it this way now.
That's great. And of course, the shelter is a very young shelter supporting 45,000 people within Lawrence County. What does responsible oversight of a growing county service look like to you? I mean, I know that you were very concerned at the beginning about the contribution and the fact that I think you had mentioned that there were other services that continue to expand maybe greatly, and you were kind of concerned about that, and asked about focused public-private partnerships so that we could help so that it wouldn't grow.
Balloon.
Would you like to elaborate on that as much as you thought that it possibly could?
Well, that was one of the concerns that I had when, that we first started looking at it was, what was your objectives? What were the end games? And, I think it's just a suggestion.
No, we take suggestions.
I think coming up, probably here in the next month or two, I would think, y'all supposed to, all entities supposed to get together and sit down at the table and discuss issues and problems, if any, and I think that would be a good time to kind of, talk to everyone about their ideals of kind of, what they would think that would help them or help y'all, and try to, try to do it as a capital project, because every year towards the end of our budget year, we usually have some money, for capital projects. And now, of course, that's a one-time thing.
Right.
So that don't affect the budget like a reoccurring item does. But I would ask you this, of course, whoever's county executive, well, David will be on that. A person needs to really get him involved to kind of let him kind of know where we're at in the budget, kind of what we're looking at on capital project money, and then y'all can kind of mold y'all's goals around that. Then.
Well, it's interesting that you've mentioned that because we are looking at a couple of grants as far as our next project is concerned, which is the quarantine and intake center.
Right.
And right now we do have money from our last event, but with that type of project, it's going to take, a lot of different entities and so on and so forth. So thanks for the suggestion. We'll definitely,
absolutely.
We're working on it right now. Yeah. When does that usually happen, Wayne?
Are you talking about
when you do the pitch for the capital project?
Well, most of the time, budget time should be fixing to start here just right now. Just any time, and it's usually considered between April and June.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know. We Leanne had mentioned we are working on a quarantine facility because right now, anytime we get a hoarding case or, a bunch of animals that we don't know their health status or anything like that, we don't have a separate place to put them. So they kind of just end up we try to keep them separated, obviously, at the shelter, but, they end up kind of getting mixed in with the general population, and, that puts them at risk and puts all the other animals at risk. And so having that separate facility where they can house medical cases or the intakes of, unknown health animals is important, I think, for the shelter. It keeps
the population safer.
Yeah.
Because right now the current shelter building is just open.
Right.
It's an open facility. Yeah. So, yes. And both of you were at the fundraising event last year. Yes, and so, we have roughly right now about close to $50,000 for that particular project. And so,
right.
So that's a great suggestion. Regarding Lawrence County SNPs, spay-neuter is a positive solution. Our spay-neuter program that offers assistance for families who need them. Of course, the idea behind it was rather straightforward. It's far less expensive to prevent unwanted litters than to house and care for animals long-term in the shelter, and also to prevent, it can become very overwhelming for people and families when their pets continue to have litters of puppies and then those litters have puppies and so on and so forth. Spay-neuter costs far less than months of feeding, medical care, and housing. So the spay, as we always say, and of course, we can't adopt our way out of this situation. So spay-neuter is the answer. So what are your thoughts, Wayne, on SNPs?
Well, that's my number one. I think that is, if you can stop it from happening.
Yeah.
It's easier to do it on that end than it is to adopt something. So find a place for an animal to go. So I've always been on board with that. I'm for it. Matter of fact, Leanne can tell you, I worked for this past time to get that funding increased. Do you remember that, Leanne?
We have an additional $10,000. It went from $25,000 to $35,000 this year. That will enable us, and vet prices have gone up.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere, not just everywhere. Everything's gone up, but, vet prices along with that. And so it allows us, thank you very much, it allows us to do more spay-neuter clinics.
And last year, I think we did over 500 animals.
Right, correct.
Great. There's great.
Yes. So I also want to talk about something. Many of our animal issues come from the fact that we are an agri community, a farm community. You don't necessarily, I mean, this happens in rural counties like Lawrence County, like our home. But there, culturally, spay neuter is not was not used to be first and foremost. Litters just happened, and dogs not being contained. I grew up. We didn't have, just like you. Did you have fences? And none of us did. Did you, Kayla? Did you grow up in
No,
West Virginia?
I grew up in West Virginia. We did not have fences.
Yeah, we didn't have fences. We had free roaming dogs.
Right.
Yes. And then animals left unaltered. So we do know Folka is out there trying to encourage people to spay and neuter their animals because times have evolved. Everything has evolved. How do you think leaders can help regarding changing the culture, regarding spay neuter?
Well, I think it'll take, educating. I think it'll take time.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take a community involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Local people getting involved, talking about it. And things like that. And it's a lot of times a good thing. Sometimes takes a long time to catch on.
It does.
It
does.
And so, I just believe that's really kind of what it's going to take.
You're exactly. It is a long term, and we are going into classrooms, and also this summer we're going to have summer reading programs when we're going to encourage that, and begin with children, and then hopefully promote it, through social media as well.
Yeah.
Kayla, do you have anything to add to that?
About changing the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, it starts, with the county leadership and for organizations, setting that tone that, the community can follow. And, when we get the word out and say, what we think is important as community leaders and government leaders, that, it keeps that in the forefront of people's minds. And, it is a culture shift is always slow. And it takes a long time to see the benefits of that. Sometimes I think, we spayed and neutered 508 animals last year, but our intake was the highest number it's ever been. It was 397, I think, was the shelter intake number last year. So it's hard to see both of those numbers and feel like it's making a difference, but it is.
It is. Yes, absolutely. And we are having transports. Sometimes we take our animals when we have the opportunity, our shelter pups up north.
Mm-hmm.
And people always ask, well, why does the North want our animals? And it's because they have stronger laws in place.
Mm-hmm.
They have, and by that, taking a leadership role and kind of helping to change the culture in that way, regarding, and that helps to reduce unwanted litters as well.
Yeah.
So Folka has discussed some practical based ideas to help to reduce the number of unwanted animals in Lawrence County. And one of those is recognizing pet-friendly landlords. So many of our landlords, it seems, they do not want pets in the house when they rent to someone else. And maybe we can speak to landlords and educate them about there could be some policies in place to prevent any damage from pets or pet deposits, and recognize those who accept people to move in, be able to move in, because many times those dogs are the ones who end up at the shelter. We've also taught, and we are visiting senior centers. So we're hoping to pair senior pets with senior citizens. We've started out with the Lawrenceburg Senior Center, and I think we're going to Loretta. We're going to be hitting that in other St. Joe in the near future. And then we've also started the Kibble Cupboard, where we are helping families who maybe are going through an unfortunate situation and need financial help with feeding their animal and their pets, and once again helping to keep those out of the shelters. Your thoughts on any of those? Microchipping as well.
Yeah, I mean that's that's something that's is going to take a lot of work to get some of that stuff implemented. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take, people's going to have to really become aware,
Yeah.
that this group is here, and it's just something everybody will just have to work on, and just try to make a goal towards it, and just maybe pick one off at a time.
Pick one off at a time.
Yeah.
Now we have two at a time, but we will hopefully, you're exactly right, incorporate it, because we do have a lot of irons in the fire.
We do,
which is exciting, and a lot of that is based on our public-private partnership with Lawrence County and the city of Lawrenceburg. So it's all exciting, and a lot has happened within these last 5 years of. We've all done a lot, but we can always do more.
Yeah.
And we invite the community volunteers if they would like to help as well. But do you have any closing thoughts, Wayne, before we say adios?
I'd like to tell the reason why I have re-entered the race.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
2025 was a hard year for myself and my family. Back in May, I had a grandson that was in a car accident, that didn't survive. Then, my wife took ill and she become bedridden. So I made an early decision, that I was not going to run, because I felt like, that my obligation needed to be with my family and her. Then in September, then she passed away. And so around January, I started getting calls and stuff. People wanted me to reconsider running. And at that time, I was still good with my decision, But then I find out about the 11th hour that District 1 was probably not going to be contested. So anyway, I thought about it and I reconsidered, and I went and got qualified. And I've always said this, I think when we have election anywhere, people needs to have a choice. So, what I put up on the table is experience. I want to make sure, that it's in the budget for us to continue, expanding water lines out into rural places of Lawrence County. I want to continue working with the county road superintendent, helping him find ways for more funding, whether it's a bond issue or whatever, where, that we can continue resurfacing roads. I want to work with the school board members. I want to work with the school superintendent on capital projects. Most time every year they always have capital projects, kind of upgrade their school. So I want to make sure that there takes place. And our first responders, I want to be able to, to fund and give them the tools, to help keep us safe. And, I want to work for a relationship on city, county, and state. And I want a relationship with the county commissioners, because there's what helps moves this county forward. And it keeps taxes low. So I just want to thank District 1 for letting me represent them in this past 4 years. And I also want to ask them for their vote and support in the August general election. Thank y'all very much.
Well, thank you
Thank
too.
you so much for being on here.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you. You and of course your opponent being the first to come out for District 1. We started with District 1, yes.
District 1.
And thank you so much for everything that you have done. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the shelter, and then your opponent is going to come in. I think you're going to go get him. See, everybody works so well together. We all work well together.
Anyway, thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wayne. We appreciate it.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Say bye to
Yes,
Jimbo.
absolutely. We love it. We're so glad that this has happened. I think this is going to make such a difference in letting the community know about each of our candidates.
Yeah.
But between now and then, we want to just talk a little bit about shelter updates and Jimbo.
Yeah, so we can talk about Jimbo first. If I can get him up. You want to come here and say hi?
Hey, Jimbo.
In the camera?
He is adorable.
This is
Absolutely.
Jimbo. I don't know if it's his first time on the show, but it's my first time meeting him, and he is a beautiful. If you're just listening, he's a beautiful brown brindley color,
baby.
And he is just a love bug. He's been trying to get up in my lap the whole time. He's trying to talk into the microphone right now, but he's just a complete cuddle bug. He's good with kids, cats. He was a little leery getting up in the car, but once we got moving, he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
He has been at the shelter for 834 days.
That just is incredible.
Yep. That's 2
And he
years
is
and 3
beautiful.
months. Yeah,
he is
he's
just
so pretty.
a beautiful dog. Not that that matters. I always
Right.
say that. Not that matters. But he is.
Yeah.
And he's such a sweetheart with a wonderful personality.
Yeah.
And so well behaved, too.
He has been so well behaved, and they say he's just under 3 years old.
Okay.
So that means he's
You're a
spent
young
almost
buddy.
his whole life at the shelter.
And
so far.
I know when he looks at you when you talk to
Got them
him.
big old
and-
eyes.
Oh, I know. He is just adorable.
Yeah.
And if Charlotte was in here, of course, she would make him turn around and get a great
I know.
picture.
I think she got some good
But
pictures.
she did get some great pictures. So she's going to post. She's going to post things about Jimbo later. And if you are interested, you can comment on the page. And we will be reaching out to you. Ginger will be reaching out to you. So do you have some more information, Kelly? you want to
Yes.
share?
So I got some information from Ginger about our average length of stay.
Okay.
So we have been crunching some of those numbers. So in 2023, the average length of stay for a dog in the County-Lawrenceburg Animal Shelter was 309 days. So almost a whole year.
Oh, my stars. Okay. That is really long.
A long time.
Yes.
In 2025.
Even though we have very high local
Right.
adoption rate.
Yeah.
That is still so long.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
In 2025, so last year, the average stay was 68 days.
Oh, okay.
So
that's good.
79% reduction in
Wonderful.
2 years. So
Okay.
that's just excellent work. And I mean, it speaks to all the work that, we're doing obviously with Volca, and, we help support those adoption events, but just all the work that they're doing out there at the shelter.
In the community for stepping up. I mean,
Absolutely.
that is just incredible.
Yep.
When we talk to rescue partners in other states, the first thing that we do is say what a wonderful community we have and how everyone has stepped up and adopted. But because we are a relatively new project, and Lawrence County has never had animal welfare resources, we're playing catch up right now.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And, like I said earlier, we had almost 400 intakes last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost double what we've ever had before, just looking at the numbers.
Right.
But we also had more adoptions than we had ever had before. It's just we can't, like you said, we can't adopt our way out of the situation that we have.
Right. So spay neuter is the way. There's a lot of different avenues.
Yep.
So if you do have room in your family,
Yes.
spring is right around the corner.
And puppy season.
But it's also a great time to get out and, you can walk your dog. It will make you healthier, your family healthier.
Yeah.
It's just great
Yep.
what a dog brings. And I know that people mention, well, we're all so busy, but everybody needs someone to come home to.
Absolutely.
And a dog can be a stabilizing force while everybody's out, taking on the world. The dog is at home. The family pet is always at home, waiting on people to return, waiting on everybody to return. And that's a very comforting thought, for a lot of families.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of people say that they're so busy and they feel bad, going to work for 8 or 9 hours a day. But these dogs live 22 hours a day in a cage in a kennel right now at the shelter. So they will be more than thrilled to
absolutely.
Only have 9 hours
and they
or 10
sleep
hours.
a lot.
Yeah.
I know my dog sleeps a lot.
Yeah.
He gets his exercise. There's a time and space for everything.
Yeah.
So do you want to mention some of our events that are upcoming?
Yes. So March 15th, the shelter has partnered with David Crockett State Park for the Tails to Trails. So you get a dog from the shelter and then go on a ranger-led hike. I think it's just a mile or two. It's not super long or strenuous. So that's coming up on March 15th. March 17th, I think they're going to try to do a pet parade with the radio station. So that's going to be fun.
Yes, we just kind of
sprung that on
Charlotte. And
it was always a good sport.
Always a good sport and sealed the deal, I think, today. So Jimbo, you excited about that? He raised his head.
He did.
So, St. Patrick's Day, last year, I think that episode got thousands and thousands of likes.
Oh,
it was
great.
incredible. And Ginger, I think, talked nonstop with the animals. It was incredible.
Yep.
I was there with the bottle of water in the background, but it was great. And the volunteers, everybody came up. It was just a really wonderful time, which is probably why Charlotte wants to do it again, because it was, even though it was challenging doing it outdoors and broadcasting it at the shelter with internet access.
Right.
Everybody was thrilled when, it all came together.
It's going to be fun. Yeah. We also have the Merry Market coming up.
We do.
So
and that's always exciting.
Yeah. March 27th and 28th.
27th and 28th. Spring is almost here.
Yes.
I think it's here. And so what better way? They have food and it's just a great celebration.
Yep. Get out, do some spring shopping.
Yes, and we are going to be there.
Yes,
we're going to be giving away or raffling away baskets.
Yep. So we're putting together different themed baskets. We'll have a few cat and a few dog baskets. So you can buy your raffle ticket, however many raffle tickets you want, and then you'll put it in the jar for the basket that you want. And then at the end of Saturday, we will draw a name and give you a call.
Yeah. So anything else you want to?
I think those are all the big events coming up right now.
Okay, that's great.
You can always foster a dog for however long you would like if you just want to take a dog out of the shelter for a weekend.
And if I had my phone, I could give Ginger's number that Ginger normally does in her radio voice. And I do know it's 931-244. I want to say it's 0265, but I'd hate to give out somebody else's number. So never mind. Never mind about that. Just comment on either one of Foca's posts on Facebook or the Lawrence County Animal Shelter, and someone will be back in touch with you quicker than you think.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. So we all monitor that, so we'll be on there. So
now I think we're going to have our second candidate.
Okay.
Dustin, can you hear us? This is... Here comes Dustin. How are you doing? Thank you so much for... I'm going to stand up. Yeah.
So it's Jimbo.
Thanks so much for joining us. Have a
Seat. We'll try to get your mic sorted.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
Come on in and sit
That's
down. This is
Jimbo.
Hello,
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Yes. So we were here earlier with Wayne Yocom, and now we are here with our second candidate for District 1. And we are so happy that he came driving in from Huntsville.
Decatur.
Oh,
Close.
Decatur,
Yes,
close. Okay. Driving in from Decatur. And we're so glad that you were able to make it. Thank you so much. Before we get started, in fact, Wayne had mentioned at the end of the segment, so we'll ask you at the beginning of the segment why you want to be commissioner, why you have decided to enter into the race.
All right. So for the ones that don't know me, I was born and raised in Lawrence County. Grew up in a 5 Points community. Spent a little time in the military, and once I come back home, me and my wife bought a house in Loretta. So Lawrence County means a lot to me. I take a lot of pride in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very busy. Me and my wife have 3 daughters, and
Oh, wow.
the ones that do know me, I spend a lot of time working on race cars and driving. All that stuff's dried up now, and girls are slowing down on basketball. So I feel like now's the time that I actually have the time that I could dedicate to what's required to do this position,
Mm-hmm.
to put in the work. So also have nothing against Wayne, but anytime you see an incumbent that's been in a political position for 32 years, I personally think that's a bad thing. I don't see it as a career or a stepping stone into anything. It's just a service, and that's what it is to me, to be able to serve the people of my community, maintain what we have as far as EMS and roads and schools, and learning a lot of new things, starting this journey. People like y'all, so
We just kind of pulled you in, didn't we?
yeah, yeah.
We did, but you know what? It's a good thing because it gets the community to get to know you, and of course, we're talking about all things animals. So we want to talk about, to kind of get started, about you personally. Did you grow up and have pets, dogs, cats?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, the dog that I have the fondest memory of as a child looks a lot like this. We had a bulldog boxer mix growing up, and she was probably my favorite growing up. And now, my family, we have actually 4 dogs,
Oh wow, okay.
and never was really a cat person, but when you have 3 daughters, you become a cat person.
You become a
So
cat person.
We have a cat too, so
That's
yeah.
great.
Yep.
So how do they all interact with one another?
So we have our poodle. She's our baby. She stays in the house, and she kind of runs the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 2 golden retrievers that we've had for over 10 years. They actually stay outside, and we've.
High energy.
Oh yeah. Well,
Not so much now at
not so
10.
much now. They're a little
But they
gray and
were,
slowed down,
yes,
and They
yes.
just like to hang out in the garage for most
Yes.
of the time now.
Mhm.
And we picked up a stray along the way. We had this little hound mix that showed up, and the girls took her in and
Oh,
made herself at home too. So
and that, that is sounds so familiar on what so many families have done, taking in strays. And thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Because we've all had to, whether it was a cat, looking at you on the back porch, or, dogs, that's what we've all had to do and continue to do. Even with even though we have a shelter
right.
right now, we're all kind of, doing the best we can. So you had one like Jimbo there,
yes,
Brindle, and you said that we were trying to guess what Jimbo is, and you kind of nailed it. We thought maybe Jimbo might have a little bit of boxer, but he looks labby, and he may have a little bit of bulldog in him.
or maybe even some cur.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
okay, yes, okay. That's one. Well, he's adorable.
Yep.
Um,
I love that you said that though. Like, I grew up, all the dogs I had were mutts growing up. And, I think we all have those memories of just like, I showed up with a puppy and was like, Dad, can I keep him?
Yeah.
And, who knows what kind of dog it was. And they were the best dogs,
Yeah.
they didn't have a lot of health problems. You know, they weren't bred to have hip and joint issues and
That
no
is
high
correct.
grooming needs. And, you know, they're just healthier dogs, mutts are.
Yes, and everybody looks at our childhoods and always says, you know, oh, if things could be this way or blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things I think that's missing is a big old mutt, you know, running a big old dog,
Yeah.
old dog. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
But so Lawrence County joined the city of Lawrenceburg and with FOCA in a public-private partnership to start the shelter, to open the first countywide shelter. And we began work on this about 5 years ago. And we pitched this, Wayne was talking about earlier when we were pitching our proposal, as, you know, for public safety and for quality of life, you know, property values, neighborhood peace, so that neighbors could, you know, to prevent stray dogs. So what do you think about animal services and how they matter at the commission level?
So most importantly, if it's left unattended, it can become a major issue. So just preventive care to cut down on all the strays and stuff
Yes.
will really help a lot.
It certainly does. And I think hopefully now our shelter is currently, you know, far exceeds its maximum capacity, but it is going down. And with our spay neuter program and with everybody, you know, everybody's very hands-on, it will start to become a highly functioning shelter and under Ginger Morgan's leadership too. So when you think about roads and schools and emergency services, budgets, where do you see animal services fitting into that picture?
So obviously those things you mentioned should be a top priority of the commission, and they will eat up a majority of the budget from the county. But with that said, animal service should carry value in that discussion as well, because like you mentioned, neighborhood peace, property value, all those things that go along, if the neglect is there, has an effect on that. So I think it should rank pretty high.
Yeah. And we mentioned it earlier, but right now the animal shelter is up under the sheriff's department. And so that is kind of where it falls from a budget standpoint, I guess, right now.
And from a management standpoint too. Ginger reports directly to Sheriff Myers.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're right. I mean, it does impact, you know, it impacts public safety. It impacts property values. You know, it hits all of those items, I think.
So our shelter now serves approximately 45,000 Lawrence County residents, and that is a big responsibility. So when budgets are tight, and, you know, often they are, how would you protect essential services, not only with animal services, but all the others, you know, while still being fiscally responsible?
So this was some of the questions that I had to reach out in the community, because I was unaware of some of these issues. But as far as the budget being tight, you know, that's the responsibility of the commission, is to manage that responsibly. So fiscal responsibility includes investing in prevention. The commission already helps fund spay and neuter programs annually through FOCA, and that's one of the smartest investments that I think we can make as a commission. Preventing unwanted litters reduces intake, lowers long-term costs, and improves animal welfare. So,
you know, that's what we mentioned earlier, is that even though everybody's stepping up, we cannot adopt our way out of this situation.
Right.
And spay neuter is the answer, which is bringing me to Lawrence County SNPs, which is our program. Spay neuter is a positive solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, the idea behind SNPs is rather straightforward. It's far, as you mentioned, it's far less expensive to prevent unwanted litters than to house and care for animals long-term in the shelter. Spay neuter cost far less than months of feeding, medical care, and housing. Prevention reduces stray populations over time. Fewer complaints, safer neighborhoods. So, what are your thoughts? Do you have any additional thoughts about Lawrence County SNPs? We do have, just so you know, because you are a new candidate, we have a local vet partner, and then we also have clinics that our volunteers will usually go to Rotary Park, and people will bring their doggies, and then we will take them to our clinic partners in Middle Tennessee and in North Alabama, and they have their surgeries, and then we bring them back home and safely into the arms of their families. And we get a lot of bang for the buck that way.
Definitely.
So that's some things I found out through talking to other people. All the pets that do go to the shelter, they're already spayed or neutered. So once they go out back into, I guess you say, the population,
Yep.
Yes.
you've kind of already addressed that
Yes.
situation. So one thing I've learned is being in a leadership role at the place I work, being proactive versus reactive goes a whole lot further, and a whole lot less cost goes along with that most of the time. I mean,
Yes.
there is a cost,
Yes.
but it reduces the long-term spending overall. So I think prevention is the key, and it probably goes a long way.
And some of the commissioners have brought this up, and we always want to make this clear. So, and you were exactly right. Any dog that goes into the shelter, when they are adopted out, they have to be spayed or neutered. And that money comes from the Lawrence County, City of Lawrenceburg operational budget for the shelter. And then we have the Lawrence County SNPs money over here, which is strictly for the community only and not for shelter pets. So this belongs to this bucket. And then the Lawrence County SNPs belongs to the community and for people who need financial assistance. So I always bring that up, just,
So I think I've kind of learned a little bit about that kind of spreads the load out on the taxpayers in the county.
Yeah.
Since Lawrenceburg kind of, I guess, collaborates with the county on that. So
Yes.
that helps reduce the burden on the taxpayer. So that's a good thing in my eyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So changing the culture. We had talked earlier that, Lawrence County is an cultural community. When I grew up, I'm older than you two. And I remember growing up and we all had dogs and there were no fences. You just had free roaming dogs and
Cats were always having kittens.
yeah, cats were having kittens and all of that. So that's how we all grew up, and we're, slowly but surely trying to educate and change the culture. How do you think, because it only costs taxpayers in the long run and costs the community as a whole, that everybody, hopefully will encourage everybody to kind of step up? And how do you think leaders can become involved in that and help with that effort?
Well, you can encourage responsibility through education. I guess that could be through, people don't know what they don't know. So you could start with the schools, maybe churches, maybe civic events. That education and setting the example of what needs to happen, providing access to people like you.
And we have, just so you know, we've started an educational program where we do go into schools, and it's a series of books that have been authored by someone in Middle Tennessee, Lover. So she talks about spaying, neutering, and feeding and watering, and, approaching dogs if they're on a leash and somebody else has them, safety and security, all of those things. And so we started it last year, but we need to do better. And hopefully we're going to get into more schools this year.
Yeah.
That's the key as well. Public safety and enforcement,
culture change is hard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you work, but I come from a manufacturing background, and changing anything, with people who have always done things a certain way, is always difficult.
Ourselves included.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they rearranged Kroger, I lost my mind.
Oh, honey,
you know.
let me tell you, when they rearranged Kroger, I've never heard so much. God love Kroger. I've never, yes, and you've all,
Yeah.
like Kayla almost was, yes.
Yeah. So it's hard, and it does take time, and I think that we've made a lot of good strides in the past 5 years with the shelter and with FOLCA and the county city partnership. And I think that we still have further to go in order to make this a high functioning county for dogs. I mean, we're still shipping animals regularly to other states. And it begs the question, what are those states doing right that we're not doing? That they can take our animals that we're overrun with, and what lessons can we learn from those cities and counties that we can implement to better function as a county.
Right.
So, and that kind of want to circle back about some of the other ideas, Dustin, that we're working on. We have discovered that, when people, and I know rental property is very hard around here, housing is very hard to come by around here. So many of the landlords are not accepting pets, and I know they have very good reasons. But Jimbo, honey, but perhaps we can start working with them on their policies that maybe they can institute with pet policies and other things, an assessment of the pet that comes in, and recognizing those landlords who do accept pets, because if they don't, many cases they try to turn them in to the shelter because they need a place to live. Jimbo, bless your heart, honey.
I think I'm going to go get them some water.
I know we need to give him some water. So we're also pairing senior pets with senior citizens, and FOLCA and our volunteers are visiting senior centers with pets, and they just really enjoy the visit too. And then we also have started Kibble Cupboard along with the shelter. For families who may need food assistance for their pets during a temporary hardship. And that way we're able to keep the pets in houses. How do you feel about some of those ideas that we're working on?
I like the idea of pairing the pets with the seniors. I think that's really neat. Sometimes the situation may not be ideal for the pet and the senior for whatever the case may be, but pairing those twos up and giving them opportunity for the pets to play and the interaction for the senior who may not get that every day.
Yes,
I think
it enriches everybody's lives.
It makes it a more pleasurable environment for both the pet and the senior. So,
and I need to mention again, if I did not earlier, we want to thank our sponsors.
Yes, we do.
I mean, we usually do it at the
very beginning
of every show because it is so important. Story and Lee, Parks Lumber Company, and Hearing Services of Middle Tennessee, we could not do it without them. They allow us to get on and talk about all things animals. And our adoption rates are so high because of our partnership, their work, their sponsorship, and our partnership with WLX. So we do want to thank everybody, and we should have done that at the beginning, but thank you. And please thank the sponsors if you are out and about and see them. So Dustin, before we leave, would you like to just give your pitch on why you why you want people to vote for you as commissioner?
Yeah. So like I said, the community means everything to me. I take a lot of pride in it. I was fortunate enough to grow up in this area. I've been fortunate enough to see other areas and realize that they don't have it as good as a lot of folks in Lawrence County. So I know sometimes people who's never been out in the world or country may not realize that, but we truly do live, in my opinion, one of the greatest places around. And I just want to just be a mouthpiece for the citizens. I have no personal agenda. My income comes from another career that's not tied to Lawrence County, so there's no gain there for me. It's not a stepping stone. I have no desire to be a county executive or a politician. I just want to make good common sense decisions and
make a difference.
Make a difference in our local community. So,
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yep.
Thank everybody for tuning in. In 2 weeks, we will have hopefully District 2. Stay tuned. Got that right on.
man, you nailed that one.
Oh, you have to. I'm sitting there watching that countdown.
I wasn't even. I put it up there, but I didn't.
We need to show people.
Yeah,
I know,
pay attention.
before we get started.
Yeah.
But yes, and usually people forget, but I've done this so much now. I'm just looking all the time. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
I
we appreciate
can't
it.
tell you how much we thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah,
That was great. I think this was a good thing to do.
I think so.
Maybe it wasn't terrible.
No,
It
you did
wasn't.
great.
You did a great
You did good.
job. Oh, you
Yeah.
did a great job.
Yep.
Let me tell you, the first time I did it, all I did was look at myself. It was pitiful. I mean, I wasn't in here. See, I can't see what's going on.
Mhm.
But all I did, they put us in another room,
Bubs.
and all I did, I was fixated on how I looked, and I was pitiful. So, now that I can't look at myself, I don't care anymore. It's like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like I should look at y'all
Yeah.
and engage with y'all, not necessarily.
Yeah, I feel
and
like
I think
it's,
that's
back and
better
forth a
too.
little bit.
Every now and then I'll look. In fact, I don't even know where I'm looking.
Yeah.
Aren't you so good?
But I think it's better if they're watching kind of back
Dialogue.
and forth
Yeah.
the dialogue. And it's
More
hard for
natural.
you because you're
Yeah.
the middle. I've
It's
sat
all
in the
good.
middle and you're kind of going back and forth and whiplash. But
all good.
it's all good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
y'all.
much.
I appreciate the time. Look forward to seeing y'all
Yep.
as I get out and
Well, this is kind
get
of good to
involved more. Yeah.
jumpstart everything.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you did your homework. That's good.
Yeah, we
too.
appreciate that.
That's good. Yeah, we so
We
appreciate
really do.
that. Yeah, I loved it. You
Thanks.
can tell how smart he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to sound like this. You can tell how smart he is. And I said, "Oh, would you like to come on and blah blah blah?" He says, "Yeah. Why don't you send me the questions and I'll see if I can get over."
Well, I mean,
I want to look at those questions
So
before I commit myself to anything.
I didn't want to set myself up. I'm down for
Oh, are we
anything.
still on?
Yes, remember that part where I need to teach you